It was just supposed to be a quick walk. I'd done it dozens of times before, head down the road after my evening shift, earbuds in, the same route, the same quiet neighborhood. But that night felt different. Maybe it was the way the wind moved too still through the trees. Or maybe it was the way the streetlights flickered every few feet like they were trying to warn me. I shrugged it off. I was just tired, I told myself. It had been a long day. But deep down, something felt off. I noticed him around the corner of Maple Avenue. A dusty black car idling near the curb, engine humming low. At first, I didn't think much of it. People parked all the time along that street. But when the driver leaned out the window, smiled, and said, "Hey, you need a ride somewhere?" my heart gave a tiny jolt. He looked normal enough. Middle-aged. Clean-shaven. Wearing a neat button-down shirt. There was nothing particularly threatening about him. In fact, he reminded me of one of my old high school teachers. For a second, I hesitated. I wasn't one to accept rides from strangers, especially not this late. But he must have noticed the tired slump in my shoulders, the way I kept glancing at my phone to check the time. "It's not safe this late," he added. "You really shouldn't be walking alone." That's when the doubt crept in. He was right. The buses had stopped running, and my battery was almost dead. I was easily another 25-minute walk from home. My feet were sore, and I just wanted to be done. After another pause, I opened the passenger door, got in, and buckled up. He nodded with a smile and started driving. At first, it seemed okay. We talked casually. He asked simple questions, where I worked, if I lived around here, if I'd grown up in town. Nothing too personal. I kept my answers short. I didn't want to be rude, but I also didn't want to open up too much. The car moved smoothly along the streets I recognized, until suddenly, it didn't. He took a left where he should have gone straight. I leaned forward slightly, trying to stay calm, and said, "My place is the other way." He didn't answer. He just kept driving, both hands firm on the wheel. My voice sharpened. "Sir? You missed the turn." And that's when I heard it. Click. The sound of the doors locking. I looked over at him, my stomach twisting. He was no longer smiling. I reached for my phone, only to see the black screen. Dead. Of course. I was trapped inside a moving car, with a man whose expression had gone completely cold, and no way to call for help. That's when I realized, this wasn't just a ride. Something was very, very wrong. And what happened next is something I'll never forget. My mind started racing. Every second in that car felt like a minute. I tried to stay calm, tried not to show panic, but inside, my heart was pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. The streets outside were unfamiliar now, no more cozy houses or warm porch lights. Just dark, empty roads surrounded by trees and long stretches of nothing. I glanced at the dashboard. No phone holder. No GPS running. He wasn't heading anywhere specific. That's when it really hit me, this wasn't some innocent mistake. This man had no intention of taking me home. I shifted in my seat, keeping my voice steady. "I think we should stop. I can just walk the rest of the way." He didn't look at me. Just kept staring ahead, his jaw clenched. No response. I gripped the handle on the door, but of course, it was locked. My hand moved toward the window button, he'd disabled those too. Trapped. Thoughts started tumbling in my head. Why did I trust him? Why didn't I follow my gut? I started thinking back, did I see him before today? Was he parked outside work? Watching? Or was this just random? Every possible scenario ran through my mind, none of them comforting. He finally spoke again, his voice lower now, almost to himself. "You should have just kept walking." That sentence chilled me more than anything else. The road narrowed, and the trees grew thicker. No signs, no other cars. It felt like we were slipping out of the world, deeper into nowhere. I looked around for something, anything, I could use if things got worse. My bag was under my feet, zipped. I had pepper spray somewhere in there, but would I even get the chance to use it? That's when he slowed the car down and turned onto a dirt path. The tires crunched over gravel as the car crawled down the narrow dirt path, tree branches brushing against the windows like fingers scraping to get in. My breathing grew shallow. This wasn't a shortcut, this was isolation. Total silence surrounded us, except for the occasional rustle in the woods and the low hum of the engine. I thought about jumping out, but the speed was still too fast, and I wasn't sure where I'd run even if I did. I scanned the dashboard again, no phone charger, no sign of a name badge or anything that could give me a clue about who he was. He didn't speak, and I didn't either. My thoughts kept returning to work. I had told him earlier that I worked late shifts at the diner, and now I wondered if he had been there before, listening, watching, waiting for a moment just like this. Was this planned? Or did I just make the mistake of trusting the wrong person at the worst possible time? I started to remember small details, his fingers tapping against the steering wheel in a nervous rhythm, a faint scratch on his neck, the slight smell of oil and sweat that filled the car. Every little thing became a piece of a puzzle I couldn't solve fast enough. Then a strange thing happened. He reached into the glove box and pulled out a folded map. Not GPS. A paper map. Who still used those? He glanced at it quickly, then tucked it back in without saying a word. That tiny moment told me something. He didn't want anyone tracking this route. No digital trail. And then, just ahead, I saw something. A faint light between the trees. Like a cabin. Or maybe something else. My stomach twisted. I didn't know what was waiting up there, but I knew whatever it was, this night was far from over. The faint light grew brighter as we moved deeper into the woods. My eyes stayed fixed on it, trying to figure out what kind of place it was. Cabin? Shed? Some kind of workshop? All I knew was that nothing about it felt safe. I could barely breathe. My hand stayed clenched on the strap of my bag, fingers creeping toward the zipper where the pepper spray was buried. I didn't dare make a sudden move, but I knew I had to do something soon. Every second was closing in like a tightening rope. He finally spoke again, eyes locked on the path ahead. Don't try anything stupid. We're almost there. His voice was different now, low and calm, like he'd rehearsed this before. It made my skin crawl. I nodded slowly, playing along, heart pounding like a drum in my ears. The car rolled to a stop, gravel popping under the tires. We were in front of a small, windowless building. The single light above the door buzzed weakly, casting a yellowish glow on the wooden panels. I scanned the area, no other houses, no roads, no signs of life. Just trees and shadows. He turned off the ignition but didn't move right away. Just sat there, like he was waiting for something. I glanced around the car again. Nothing sharp, nothing useful within reach. My only chance was in my bag, but would I have time to unzip it before he noticed? Then, without warning, he reached across me, fast. I flinched, thinking he was going for the door. But instead, he grabbed something from the back seat. A rope. That's when the real panic set in. I knew whatever happened next, it was now or never. I had seconds, maybe less, to act. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at the rope in his hands. He didn't even look at me, just calmly looped it through his fingers like he'd done it 100 times before. My heart was screaming at me to move, but my body stayed frozen, locked in that moment between terror and instinct. I didn't know what he planned to do next, but I knew it wasn't good. I had to act. With one sharp motion, I threw my bag at his face and reached for the door handle. It was still locked. I hit the unlock button just as he shouted something I couldn't even process. My ears were ringing too loud with panic. I shoved the door open and bolted out into the dark. I didn't stop to think. I just ran. Branches tore at my arms, thorns scratched my legs, but I didn't look back. I didn't know where I was going, just away. I could still hear the crunch of leaves behind me, quick footsteps, getting louder. He was chasing me. Then I tripped. I went down hard, hitting the forest floor with a sick thud. Pain shot through my ankle. I tried to get up, but it twisted under me. That's when I heard another sound, not from him. From behind the trees. A second pair of footsteps. Slower. Measured. And then a voice, a woman's voice. Stop. I told you to wait until I got back. I froze. My thoughts spiraled. There's someone else? The man's voice answered, defensive. She was going to run. I had to. I said wait, the woman snapped. I turned my head just enough to see her step into the clearing. She was older, maybe in her 40s, dressed in hiking gear, holding something that looked like a walkie-talkie in one hand. She looked at me like I was a piece of paperwork gone wrong. Calm, cold, efficient. You weren't supposed to pick anyone up today, she said, almost casually, like this was some sort of scheduled task. That's when it hit me, this wasn't random. This wasn't just one man acting alone. There was a plan. And I'd walked right into it. My mind was spinning. There were two of them. They weren't surprised I ran, they were arguing over how it went wrong. That meant this wasn't the first time. And I was never meant to make it this far. I could still hear the man pacing behind me, breathing heavily, rope still clenched in his hand. The woman walked closer, scanning the area like she was making decisions. Her eyes landed on my injured ankle, then flicked up to meet mine. You're lucky, she said with a strange calm. Most don't get this far. I didn't answer. My eyes were darting, looking for anything, something sharp, something useful. And then I saw it. Just beside the base of the tree behind her, my bag. I must have dropped it when I fell. I just needed a few seconds. She reached into her jacket, pulling out a small syringe. This'll calm you down. You'll sleep. You won't even know what happened. Her voice was gentle, like a nurse talking to a patient. That scared me more than anything else. As she stepped closer, I rolled slightly to my side, pretending to flinch from the pain. She took the bait. Just as she reached down, I grabbed a fistful of dirt and threw it in her eyes. She stumbled back with a sharp cry. That was my chance. I crawled, dragging myself to the bag. The man lunged at me, but I was faster. I grabbed the pepper spray and fired it straight at his face. He screamed, dropping the rope, clutching his eyes. I didn't wait. I got up, limping through the woods, using trees to stay upright, until I saw it, a flicker of blue and red lights flashing through the trees. Police. Someone must have heard me screaming earlier, or maybe he'd picked the wrong spot too close to a patrolled area. Either way, help had arrived. They found both of them near the cabin. Turns out, they'd been under suspicion for weeks. People had gone missing in nearby towns. And he wasn't just some guy offering a ride. He and the woman had a whole setup, preying on people who looked tired, distracted, or too polite to say no. But the twist? When they searched the cabin, they found a wall covered in printed photos. Blurry shots of people walking alone. One of them was me. From 3 days before I ever saw that car. I stared at that photo for what felt like forever. It was taken near the diner, from across the street, clear enough to show my uniform, my name tag, even the exact moment I stepped out after closing. That meant they had been watching me days before the ride offer. This wasn't a random chance. I'd been targeted. Over the next few hours, I was questioned, comforted, then questioned again. The officers said the cabin was part of a larger investigation. They'd been closing in for months, but never had enough evidence. My escape, my story, finally gave them what they needed. Both the man and the woman were arrested and taken into custody. The place was sealed off, and detectives said it might help them connect several missing persons cases from nearby towns. It was horrifying to even think about. I went home shaken, exhausted, and honestly, forever changed. For days I couldn't sleep, every little sound outside made me jump. Even stepping out to take the trash felt like walking into a trap. But slowly, with support from family and friends, I started to heal. Therapy helped. Talking helped. And sharing this story, as terrifying as it is, helps too. The biggest takeaway? Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it is wrong. Being polite to strangers shouldn't come at the cost of your safety. I kept going over the moment he smiled and said, "You shouldn't be walking alone." He knew exactly what to say to lower my guard. These people often don't look scary. They don't seem dangerous. That's how they work. And that's why stories like this need to be told. To anyone listening, especially those who walk home alone, take late shifts, or rely on the kindness of strangers, please stay alert. Keep your phone charged, share your location, trust your gut. Because I almost didn't make it out. But I did. And that changed everything. It was the scariest night of my life, and all because I accepted a simple ride. But sometimes, that's all it takes for a true fear story to begin. 39.